Hey, what's going on, guys? It's me, Masterinthezone, back with another reaction. Today we're reacting to his monstrous father, Frederick the Great. This is a series by Extra History, and we're doing... They recently released this, and I know very little about Frederick the Great. Frederick the Great, I know he's leader of the Prussians. He had something to do with Catherine the Great. He, supported her or something. Basically made Prussia military crazy, and eventually Germany becomes military crazy twice. So yeah, let's just check it out.
Fortress of Kustrin, Brandenburg, November 6th, 1730. Frederick, Crown Prince of Brandenburg, Prussia, looks through the bars of his cell windows as soldiers lead his companion, Hans Hermann von Katte, to the mound of sand. Katte is more than his friend. He's the 18-year-old Frederick's confidant, his protector, and some say his lover. And he had tried to save Frederick from his father.
I did hear that before. I did hear that Frederick the Great was actually a homosexual. I never knew if it was true or not. I guess they had a lot of rumors back then. I wouldn't really trust it because it's the 1600s or something like that.
The King of Prussia, and Katte would pay. "Please forgive me, dear Katte," Frederick yells in French, the language they both prefer. "In God's name, forgive me." "There's nothing to forgive," Katte answers in the same language. "I die for you with joy in my heart." The headsman steps up.
I thought Prussians didn't like French people in general, so I guess this is before that, and I guess French is still the lingua franca of Europe before English was.
Revealing his axe. Frederick doesn't want to watch, but two soldiers, acting on his father's orders, grab hold of him and press his face to the bars. He screams, he fights, the axe raises over Katte's bare neck, and mercifully, the boy who would become Prussia's greatest king faints before he sees it fall.
So he had to watch that. That's crazy. He had to watch that, his friend's death.
Thanks so much to HelloFresh for continuing to help us bring history to the table. Hey everyone, as you can probably tell already, Frederick the Great's childhood was a horror show of abuse and homophobic bullying
sounds
by
like
his
it.
father. So with today's episode, viewer discretion is advised. Frederick the Great is one of the most dynamic monarchs of the 18th century, inheriting a fractured piece of the Holy Roman Empire, a place so minor, its monarch was called King in Prussia rather than King of Prussia. He expanded it to a major power. Known as a soldier and a philosopher, his reign simultaneously encompassed refinement and brutality, demonstrating both the splendor and slaughter of the Enlightenment. Yet his first battle was not against the Habsburgs or France, but rather his own dad. Frederick's father, Frederick William, was known as the Soldier King, living...
Frederick William? I thought with Germans it becomes Frederick Wilhelm or something like that.
In a sparse militaristic fashion,
was that just a fashion, language developed later kind of thing, where people used to say this and now they say that? What's a good example? The British, they used to pronounce R's like Americans do, but it got less popular. Instead of saying water, they say water, 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 or something like that. I'm so bad at accents.
Despised anything he considered ostentatious.
Let me know in the comments if that's the reason for why Frederick William is not Frederick Wilhelm.
Or effeminate. In fact, his first act upon becoming the king in Prussia and the elector of Brandenburg was to sell his own father's jewels, horses, and fine furnishings. While many German princes used the treasury as their personal party fund, Frederick William instead pursued a conservative economic policy, curtailing state spending and battling corruption, which was a wise thing overall, but many of the unnecessary expenses he eliminated included patronage of the arts, literature, and science. He didn't just
artsy-fartsy
defund the Prussian Academy of Sciences, he closed it. But Frederick William did have one pet project, the army. So everything he saved, he poured into defense spending.
There's a saying when it comes to Germany and Prussia. I know what it is, but I don't want to mess it up. While most states have an army, the Prussian army has a state. Yep. Their military focus is crazy. The first thing is on the agenda, military, military, military. Everything else comes after. Military, military, military. Professionalism, military, military. I guess this is where it starts. It sounds
He
like
also created a new type of military draft, the canton system, that allowed Prussia to be able to recruit and train troops more efficiently and create civilian reservists that could be called upon.
basically like the first conscription method. Yep, I'm pronouncing that right.
In that way, he doubled the size of the Prussian military to 76,000 men, making it the fourth largest army in Europe.
Really?
Roughly the same as that of France, which had 10 times Prussia's population. Oh, did this guy love the army. He dressed as a military officer, held meetings in rooms where he could watch troops drilling out his window, and in an additional extreme, drafted the tallest men in the Holy Roman Empire into a special unit of giants. In fact, his council
That's actually pretty badass. Not gonna lie, that sounds pretty badass.
was so full of soldiers swilling beer and smoking foot-long pipes that it was nicknamed the Tobacco Cabinet, mostly because their meeting room smelt like an airport smoking lounge. He also was prone to violent rages, which got worse as the years went on, and had several medical conditions that kept him in constant
Sounds like a similar leader of Germany. I wonder who that was. He was. I'm pretty sure he's known for this.
pain. In other words, Frederick William projected an air of hypermasculinity, Calvinist piety, and frugal financial habits.
Calvinist.
And naturally, he wanted his eldest surviving son, Frederick, nicknamed Fritz, to grow up to be just like him, a hyper-virile religious soldier king, to use the great instrument of Prussian military power that he'd created. Now, the first 6 years of Fritz's life, he'd lived with his mother, and under her care, young Fritz developed what his father considered worrying habits. Fritz loved music and books. He grew incredibly close to his older sister Wilhelmina, enjoyed poetry, philosophy, opera, and learned to play the flute. Worse than
The arts, or as his dad would call it, artsy fartsy.
that, it
My
was
dad says stuff like that whenever someone talks about art.
the transverse flute, recently invented in France. Oh, Frederick William hated France
See-
and was known to
See, that's what I'm sorry for pausing, but that's something I knew, I had a feeling, or it should be. After the rivalry of England and France died down, it was mainly Germany and France. England just stopped caring after getting colonial hegemony. But I don't know how to say anything.
fly into a rage if the country was even mentioned. The French, he said, were decadent and effeminate. So imagine his consternation when Fritz, who was tutored in French and German simultaneously, took to French as his first language and struggled with his native German. Okay, all right, not a big deal. The boy Frederick William reasoned just needed to find the fun in war, you know? So, for his 6th birthday, he gave him a miniature arsenal of military rifles and cannons, plus a group of boys in uniform he was supposed to order around as living toy soldiers.
Oh my god.
Ah, pretty cool, eh, Fritz? Fritz? No? It's fine, because Frederick William would soon also shape his son more directly. For as was tradition, the next year when he turned 7, the responsibility for raising and educating Fritz transferred from his mother to his father. As you can imagine, all studies of music, philosophy, and poetry were promptly shut down. The prince would instead now have a grueling, regimented schedule of Latin, religious studies, ancient classics, modern political history, and military subjects, conducted largely by military officers.
More manly things. Men. Top G.
But even there, Fritz found allies. His Latin tutor was sympathetic to his clearly bright charge, and not only procured him a flute, but helped him amass a secret library of 3,000 books covering poetry, Enlightenment philosophy, and art. Fritz also visited a nearby court in Saxony.
This was during the Enlightenment era, right? So I guess this was pretty popular. I guess this is the fad amongst the youngsters around this time.
Which gave him a glimpse of a freer life than he'd had. Yet as Frederick grew into a teenager, Frederick William became increasingly furious over his heir, who he considered effeminate, incompetent, and irreligious, as it was increasingly clear that Fritz was an agnostic. So he responded with a campaign of abuse. Frederick William berated his son, screaming at him in front of soldiers. He burned books and artwork he found, and assaulted him in public.
I'm pretty sure agnostic is where, like, you're Christian, but, like, just barely. Like, you believe in Christ, and that's pretty much it. I'm not really sure. I'm not Christian. I'm Muslim. But, Yeah, that kind of stuff doesn't really happen in Islam. You're either Muslim or you're not. Actually, what happens in Islam is that if you think you're Muslim but you're not practicing Islam, it, everyone else, including God, wouldn't consider you a Muslim. Maybe even a hypocrite, actually. But that's not for me to decide. But that's just a thing I want to point out between Christianity and Islam. We're really more strict on our policies, you know.
He would strike young Frederick for sleeping in and being late for drill, or for being unsure on horseback. Once, he beat him with a cane for wearing a pair of gloves when it was cold. If I had disgraced my father so, he once told Fritz, I would have killed myself.
Damn! Damn! That's pretty harsh. That's pretty harsh. But that's how life was back then, you know? Listen to the father. Father could beat the crap out of you. All authority. Manly, macho man, you know? Yeah. I can see why, though, because I feel like more when governments and societies like France of that time is in charge of the country, I feel like your country's going to fall apart really quick. So from his point of view, I understand. It's like, yo, my son is getting weak. I gotta strengthen him, make him tough and strong, so he can lead the Prussia to glory and stuff like that. Bit overboard on that, but I understand his view.
Then, when Fritz was 16 and formed an intimate relationship with one of his father's pages, Frederick William had the young man sent to a border posting and beat his son again, calling him a sodomite. Now, a quick aside here. The language surrounding Frederick's sexuality can be a hot-button topic among historians. Not whether he was gay. He clearly was attracted to men, preferred male partners, and commissioned art with homoerotic themes. The debate is more about terminology. Whether labels like gay are imposing a modern idea of sexuality on a very different time and culture. But let's be honest, in history, it's already common to use a ton of terms like feudalism or democracy to describe things that existed but didn't yet have labels, and queer people existed then as they always have. So with all that in mind, Frederick was gay, and his sexuality definitely made it
So this was a fact. Okay, I thought that was just a rumor. I'm probably thinking about someone else.
dangerous for him to live under Frederick William. At this point,
Yeah, with a religious father and all that. That's crazy.
had only one hope to escape his father, a double marriage. See, his mother had been planning to marry his sister Wilhelmina and him to the children of her brother George II of England. Fritz was all about this. He could go to England, which was far freer than Prussia. And look, if he had to get married to get away from his father, that was a small price. But when that deal fell apart due to intrigue and shifts in alliances, he plunged into despair. That was when Katte, his friend, tutor, and likely lover, agreed to help him escape. They would slip away while touring the Holy Roman Empire and flee together to England, though they were caught almost immediately and thrown into prison. Given both were military officers, Frederick William charged them with treason and seriously considered having Fritz executed, but that put him on rocky legal ground with the rest of the empire. So in the end, his punishment was to watch Katte die. Afterward, Frederick made a deal with his father. In return for a pardon and getting to stay crown prince, he submitted to an even more grueling and austere routine of tutors. He also swore to be a good Protestant and agreed to marry. So, he entered an engagement with Elizabeth Christine, a Protestant cousin of the Habsburg line. Though Frederick was despondent over this choice, and swearing that even friendship between them was impossible, he threatened suicide, however still had no choice in the marriage. But he knew the only way out was through. Frederick wept upon meeting her, and on their wedding night...
That's pretty mean. Come on. She was forced to do this too. You gotta understand her. A bit selfish, don't you think? Well, he was beat to submission, but still.
Loitered in their bedroom for an hour before abruptly leaving to stroll the grounds until dawn. But no matter, he was safe, he was free, and he only needed to wait until the Soldier King died, and when he took power, he would never be beaten again. For in a surprise to all, Frederick William's tutelage had taken root, and his son would be a warrior king, like Prussia had never seen. And while we wait to find out what happens to Frederick next time, I say we go make a meal fit for a king. Perfect scripted timing as per usual, HelloFresh.
Okay. I guess for being the great, Went through a lot. Well, thanks for watching. That was a pretty interesting video. We will be watching the second one, like in 2 seconds. Thanks for coming by. Make sure you like, subscribe, comment down below what you think. Thank you.